Hey everybody, Nick here. Welcome back to the channel. So today is the 22nd of January 2025, and I was actually in the middle of filming another doing another video, and I just got word from my sister, my older sister, back in Canada, that the last living grandparent has passed away. My grandmother, on my dad's side. She would have been 99 next month, February 2025, going into her 100th year. It's a hard video to do because I was extremely close with her, more than almost any other family member that I have. So she was an immigrant from Portugal, from the Azores, which is an archipelago of islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, off the coast of mainland Portugal. And she reluctantly moved to Canada with my grandfather when my dad and my uncle were both kids, 3 or 4 years of age, back in the, that would be like the 60s, early 60s. But back in those days, you basically had to do what the husband told you to do, right? Those were the times. That was the, I don't know what you would call it, but the man was more in charge. You could call it sexist, you could call it whatever, but that's just the way it was, especially on a small island of only like 150,000 people, or 200, somewhere around there. So she went, and my grandfather had gone a couple of years earlier to work and try to make some money, because he could make better money in Canada working on the railroad, like the installing of the tracks, clearing the debris, like the brush, when Toronto was still it was a big city even then, but it was still growing. So he was making good money, sending money back home and whatnot. And so he called finally my grandmother to come and live with him and with the 2 kids. They took I remember she was telling me, a propeller plane. So one of those, I forget what the actual word is for it, but whatever, it escapes me. But one of those rickety old, 60s planes, She told me my dad got lost in the airport before flying. She told me a lot of stories. I hope I remember them for the rest of my life. So they went to Canada, and she didn't really want to go to Canada. She really loved her island. She loved São Miguel, which is her island, the biggest island of the Azores. But she went because her husband, that's just what a good wife would do back then. That's what they did. Obedient and all that stuff. So my dad and my uncle grew up in Canada pretty much. They still spoke Portuguese. My grandfather would not allow her to work, but being a stubborn Portuguese lady, she, since the kids were older and they were basically moving out very soon, like in their mid-teens or whatever, she wanted to do something. She didn't want to just be a housewife. So, and she, by the way, was a hell of a good artist. That's one thing I have to say. And I'll maybe show some pictures of her art. But she ended up working at Palmolive. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's the soap company or whatever it is, dishwasher soap. I don't know what the products they make. They make a bunch of stuff. But she was on the assembly line just because she wanted to get out of the house and contribute a little bit, rather than having to be the housewife. My grandfather really didn't want her at all to do that, but she put her foot down, which is kind of amazing that he allowed her. So she ended up working there for like 19 years. And I remember she told me either it was 10 or 9 or 10 years, I can't remember. She was coming up on an anniversary. She met a lot of friends there at the factory, by the way, Italian immigrants, and nobody really spoke English that well. She did learn on her own, and through her adult life and into her senior years, her English was very good. You know, I mean, a bit of an accent, but she was with it. And yeah, so she had worked there for a long time at the palm olive plant assembly line, and she told me that my grandfather was going to take a vacation and that she had to leave the job because it would be like a month-long trip. She didn't want to because she was coming up on her anniversary of working there, and they were going to give her like a really nice watch or something. I don't know, there was some sort of thing that they were going to get, like a prize or an award or something. He said, well, I'm going with or without you. And she left the job, didn't get her prize for acknowledgement for her many years of service to the company. Now, don't get me wrong, my grandfather was not a terrible person, but he had a bad temper and he was a bit abusive to her. So she suffered quite a bit in life, but she was still very strong. He was just, one of those machismo type guys, and that was just the way it was back in the day. So they went on a trip to the US. They drove around and pretty much got to see the entire country. They also did it in Portugal. They visited pretty much everywhere except for the south. So she was a hell of a good artist, as I mentioned, and I'll put some pictures of stuff she did. Unbelievable. And that's another sad thing that she told me when I saw her a year or two ago. Last time I saw her was last September 2024, and she was okay. I mean, we went out for lunch and things like that. But her artwork was fantastic. I mean, she could carve wood, paint, draw sketches by hand, unbelievable. So she wanted to go into art school and become a professional artist or do something, along those lines, and she would have made it, hands down. But again, my grandfather did not want her to go in that direction, and this just goes to show you how humans can be so cruel to another person and not care about what other people would like to do in their life. So she didn't get to do pretty much anything that she really wanted to do, which was really sad when she told me that. So you can see how real mean people can be. Again, I don't hate my grandfather for it. I think it was just, that was the time. Those are that was how it was back then. But you could tell she was very sad because of that, and she was frustrated, even years after that she attempted to become an artist. And you'd think that someone would have just, forgot about that. No, it stayed with her. And that's like having poison with you throughout your life. And that could drive a person to be so miserable. So I won't go into super, super details, but too many details, I should say. But she only started getting really, really sick towards the last maybe 6 months of the year or something like that. And I remember very vividly that the last time we had lunch together, which was at her residence, she was in a senior's residence, not a nursing home, but a senior's residence. There's a difference. And she was just frustrated with everything. I've never seen her that way. Just not wanting to eat, she was forgetting little things. She didn't have Alzheimer's, but she was just, when you're 98 going to 99, it was to be expected, right? Unfortunately, this biological meat suit, isn't meant to last very long. I mean, there's people that talk about how humans could possibly live, to 120 years, possibly, with really good health and, taking very good care of yourself. You have to have a lot of things go your way. I mean, even for her to get to that age, she never had any major serious problems. She had cancer for 10 years. I don't know if it went remission. I don't know what the story is with that, but it came back a few years ago, and that might have been what took her. It might not have even been age, but I don't really know. But she started getting all kinds of problems, bladder infection and what was the other thing? She had kidney problems, like sepsis. All kinds of different problems started kicking in, and that's to be expected, I guess. And that's a lot of suffering for her, for anybody to go through. Really trying hard to keep it together. I mean, I expected this was going to happen. I mean, it's not who am I kidding? So she's gone now, and I have no more grandparents. All of my grandparents were pretty much decent people, so I mean, they treated me well as their grandkid. And I know I'm pretty fortunate, considering a lot of people never get to meet their grandparents. So for me, this is, it's kind of a privilege. But as you get older, you notice that this life, this reality starts taking things away from you. And that's just the way this shit is supposed to play out, I guess. I don't know. I mean, probably the next person, I hate to say it, will be my only surviving parent. I'm really trying not to get emotional here, because it just doesn't serve the video. There's nothing wrong with men crying either. You can cry. I think it's perfectly normal. Yeah, it's weird, and never see that person again. I mean, depending on what your beliefs are. Which, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what comes after this. I didn't want to do another kind of, super sad death video so soon, but it was always going to happen. Now, I asked her if she was ready to die, and she said yes. I mean, the fear of it is the unknown, right? She was kind of saying, well, I don't really want to go now, but I don't know. It's the pull of this place, I guess. There's a lot of things that keeps you attached. And I hope that, because she was a religious lady when it comes to the Bible and all that stuff, never pushed it on me or anything like that. Maybe when I was younger, but if this place is a simulation of some sort, do you think, since she has attachment, she'll come back here? Like, that would be terrible, having to, come back here in a different form or whatever, not remembering, and just having to go through. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if it's definitely a possibility, coming through this torture again. But I guess if she doesn't know, if she's reincarnated, I don't know. We'll only ever find out when it's our turn. All I know is it sucks. It's weird, because when it's all you've known, as in, like, I could call her up. It's the same thing when my mother passed away. My mother passed away a long time ago. I mentioned that in another video. You're kind of like the habit of, oh, I'm gonna call and see how she's doing. I called her every day, practically, my grandmother. I went back home 3 times in a row, like 3 years in a row, even though I live overseas, and visited her so many times. We went out for lunch, and I mean, so many memories. And it's just really, really difficult. Sadness sucks. Being depressed sucks, especially because of these types of things. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go to the funeral. If you're probably seeing this, it's already days after, possibly. Some of you will see it currently today, and then it's going to be people afterwards. And I don't think I'm going to go travel that far, like, 5,000 miles or whatever it is, 6,000, I don't know what it is, 7,000 miles away. Considering it's dead of winter in Toronto, Canada, and they're going to be experiencing a polar vortex. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's when it's like a perfect storm of cold front and just really nasty, really, really nasty. I don't have anything else to say about her except I was her favorite. I guess my siblings aren't gonna like that, but she told me. That's just the truth. And I think because I could speak her native language, I was really intrigued with the culture. And that's one thing I almost forgot to mention. Last June 2024, I went to Portugal. And more specifically and more importantly, I visited her hometown for the first time. After so many years, I should have went years ago, and I got to talk to her about it and show her photos and see where she was raised, the very street that she grew up on as a little girl so many years ago, in the 1930s, if you can imagine. She was born in 1926. And it was a really, really nice place. I really enjoyed her city. I really enjoyed her island. Ponta Delgada, São Miguel, if you ever want to check it out. A lot of people go there. It's a wonderful place. And should I go back there again? Yes. And if I do, it'll have a different meaning for me. I don't know, I feel a little bit better talking about this and sharing it with you guys, and maybe you can share some stories if you had somebody close to you that you've lost. And I don't know if you ever really get over it. I mean, especially if you're super close with them and if they always treated you very well. And I have a lot more memories of her and things that, family dinners at their place and over the years. I will miss her, and I'm sure a lot of my other family members will too. And I hope, not that I know this is for sure, not that I truly believe it, but maybe we'll see each other again. I don't know. Maybe that's just a pipe dream. Maybe that's just indoctrination kind of creeping back in. I don't know. I really don't know. It's a shitty day for me, but I'm happy for her that she has left this place and is not suffering anymore. That's all I can really hope for. So, thank you for watching. Leave a comment. Let me know if you've gone through the same. And we'll see you in the next video very soon. Bye for now.